Hey guys, what's up? My name is Anthony, and welcome to another edition of B&A Giants Talk. Yeah, that's right. We're not talking B&A Sports. We're talking about Giants. And yeah, I haven't done this in a while. Ever since the end of the season, I was kind of like bleh with the Giants. You know, some Giants talk here and there, but haven't done an official B&A Giants Talk. I haven't called it B&A Giants Talk. But yeah, so there are a couple stories that I want to talk about the Giants today, because I think that there's enough built up where we can have a decent video out of it. So the first one is Philip Rivers is joining a different team most likely. He's testing free agency. And I said this a couple weeks ago. I'm like, Eli Manning is better than Philip Rivers, and Philip Rivers can't stand that. It's great. People are like, oh, Philip Rivers is the better football player. But in their primes, Eli Manning or Philip Rivers, you had one game to win. Who are you picking? I'm picking Eli Manning, 100%. I think he's a better quarterback. And Philip Rivers had the better supporting cast throughout his entire career. His team was a little bit cheap as far as spending with players. But overall, you got to say that Philip Rivers probably had the most talent around him. And he's going to test free agency. As far as where he's going to go, I really don't care. I really don't care. You'd say, oh, the Colts, the Buccaneers are really a fit for him. If I had to guess, I don't know, the Buccaneers. Bruce Arians likes working with older quarterbacks. But he's gonna have to like getting hit and getting back up. And it can be interesting for Jameis Winston and Philip Rivers to kind of have that back and forth. But who do you pay? What money? It's a lot of confusing things. I think that Philip Rivers doesn't really have a lot of suitors to him, and it just shows. Eli Manning had a quiet retirement. You know, he felt happy. He felt content with his retirement. Philip Rivers is going to be like, oh, I have to prove something, which is great as a Giants fan. We won that trade, and I think we can all say that. Unless Philip Rivers ends up joining the Colts and wins the Super Bowl, then I'll change my mind a little bit. But, yeah, so the next story I want to talk about is Leonard Williams, because apparently he wants $15 million a year. My first opinion is, well, this is the starting point. This is the max he wants to get paid. He wants teams to know where he stands. That's what he feels like he's worth. And a team with Joe Judge on that staff, I'm not too sure if he likes that. I'm not too sure if he likes that rumor getting out. And I wouldn't want to pay him $15 million. Now, people are saying $12 million max. I'd probably be somewhere in the middle, like 13.5. But he hasn't played great. 1 sack this year. He had a 70 PFF rating, I believe, which is the worst in his career. And yeah, so he's not really playing that well. His pass rushing grade was on a 66. And yes, he's great with the run defense. He is very versatile. I think Patrick Graham could use him a lot in his 4-3-3-4. That's important. But what do we know about the Joe Judge system? You want to get paid a lot of money. You get paid over what we want to pay you. You want to feel special. It's a no. I think his veteran leadership could be important. You know, he's played 4 or 5 years in the league now, so he's done pretty well. You know, he hasn't reached expectations, and he wants to get paid like he has reached expectations, and that's the point here. I think that the Giants should look to maybe move off of him. You know, as much as I don't want to say it, I mean, I'll probably be the last Giants fan on that bandwagon. Like, we need to sign Leonard Williams because we already invested so much. I'm like, you might as well just take the sunk cost already. As far as teams that could potentially want him, would Miami want him as a defensive tackle to help out Christian Wilkins on that defensive line? Could you want to bring in a guy if you're like Arizona? You lost a couple of your defensive pieces, and you feel like you can compete with Kyler Murray starting soon. You know, Patrick Peterson, I'm not sure how much he's going to cost against the cap, but you know, you did get rid of some players this year. You do have some bright spots on that defense. You know, one of your pass rushers had the second most sacks in the entire league. So I think that the Arizona could look to have an elite defense, sign a guy like Leonard Williams, play in a dome. But Leonard Williams, I think when he looks around, he looks at it, he fits in the system. He's going to look at Dalvin Tomlinson. He can look at Dexter Lawrence. Like, I can be a leader on this team, and I can show, and I can be a hero in New York. So moving on to the next story, let's talk about Darius Slayton and Darius Slay. Very similar names, and they could be playing on the same team because Darius Slayton wants to get traded to the Lions. No, just kidding. Darius Slayton tweeted out a reply to Darius Slay saying, "You'll come to us. We have the most cap in the league." Now, my first opinion about it is Joe Judge probably doesn't like this as much. Let's stay off of Twitter. No, it is the offseason, but let's not make a lot of noise here. Darius Slayton is kind of like Aaron Judge. He's feeling himself a little bit after a successful rookie season, I think. But he's still working and grinding. And Darius Slay wouldn't really fit in our team. He's about himself. He get paid a lot of money. I think we learned our lesson. We want $50 to $55 million that we want to spend after we make our cuts to Red Ellison, Antoine Bethea, Alec Ogletree. You know, we know the guys that we're probably going to cut in this offseason. maybe a couple surprise cuts. But, yeah, so I think that Darius Slayton is a little bit on something here, but I wouldn't want to pay Darius Slay a lot of money. He could bring, again, leadership to this defense. After Antoine Bethea leaves, the next oldest guy in this team is probably Sam Beal, or Michael Thomas. We don't really have a lot of old guys on this team, which could be helpful, but you want a veteran guy to help these guys out. Janoris Jenkins left, so you don't have a guy to teach up, Sam Beal, DeAndre Baker, Corey Ballantyne, maybe Julian Love. And yeah, so I think that bringing in a Darius Slay has its drawbacks and its positives. I think that Lions fans ultimately want to keep Darius Slay. They see once they get rid of players or don't sign players, it hurts them. But I'm not too sure if they want to break the bank on Darius Slay. I really don't. He's made 3 out of the last 4 Pro Bowls on his contract where he's getting paid around $13 million a year, I think. So he's been successful with the Lions, but he's 30. When does that drop-off happen? Richard Sherman, he was kind of successful this year, but it doesn't really occur where you sign an elite cornerback to a second, third deal where they are successful. They're kind of like running backs in that way, where you can get guys that are younger that can jump higher. If I was the Giants, I'd go after discount guys like Trey Waynes to fill in some voids, to create a little bit of depth on this team. Because obviously in the draft you don't really get a lot of elite corners later in the rounds. If you feel like Jeff Okudah is the guy and he falls to you at 4, you pick him, because it is helpful for you're drafting a top 5 corner. You look at guys drafted in the top 5. It's Jalen Ramsey. It's I forget. I completely forgot every other guy's name. But I think that it's very useful to look for a guy to get drafted in the top 5 if you're a cornerback, because Jeff Okudah, 6'1", he has all the assets. And the final story I want to talk about today is probably the fact that I made a video a couple days ago saying that the Giants should not, under any circumstance, draft a running back or wide receiver at number 4. Obviously, we shouldn't draft a running back at number 4. That'd be crazy. That'd be funny. It's just like, oh, yeah, that's the thing. But my opinion has changed. It's, let's not draft a guy who's going to bust. If we draft a wide receiver, great. Just don't bust. Wide receiver is going to help us be successful this year. The whole Odell story, the wide receiver doesn't really take you over the top. But I just want to draft a good player. And wide receiver is going to make us successful this year, but as long as you draft a good player, I wouldn't mind. Obviously, I'd rather Isaiah Simmons, but if Isaiah Simmons busts, I'd rather draft a great wide receiver, a guy who fits our system, our scheme, but a guy who's going to be a good player overall. And I think that's really vital because, we drafted all these years guys that ended up not really fitting. Eric Flowers, he's fitting a little bit better as a guard, but Eli Apple, let's draft a guy who's good. It's number 4, so he should be a perennial Pro Bowler at that spot. But if you like AJ Espenza, finally, I think I got it out right. But from Iowa, I think that he could be a good piece for this team. Honestly, I'd rather draft a wide receiver later in the rounds. That's still my opinion. Let's get a guy like Darius Slayton in the later rounds. It's a little less of a risk, and it's not really that much of a need. And I don't think that there's going to be value at the 4 position. And plus, if a team really wants a player at that spot, we just trade back. So we have a lot of things that we want to do. But my opinion, Dave Gettleman is just going to pick a guy. He's going to pick the best player available because he's going to see value at that spot. He's not a guy who's cute and going to be like, oh, yeah, let's trade back from number 1 spot. He's a guy, if he sees a guy he really likes, he's going to draft number 1. And I think he's going to fall in love with that Isaiah Simmons. Along with Joe Judge, they're going to fall in love with Isaiah Simmons. I wouldn't mind Andrew Thomas either, even though his film wasn't really that impressive to me. And Becton, people are starting to like him more and more. Jedrick Wills, I don't know. But, yeah, so the thing is, we're going to keep Nate Solder. We're keeping Nate Solder, so I'm just hoping that Mark Colombo is a great offensive line coach, and he could coach up the offensive line to be at least like 15 or 16 in the league. I think that helped Daniel Jones out. What helped Daniel Jones out more than an offensive line is a great defense, so he doesn't feel pressured to bring him back in the games. And he can learn a little bit from, I guess, adversity, where it's just like, oh, I didn't have a great offensive line in the beginning. But he's also not getting killed like a Deshaun Watson. I don't think the offensive line is horrible. I just don't think that is great. And again, bringing in a good offensive line coach like Mark Colombo potentially can make our team much better. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Let me know what you guys think. Should we sign Leonard Williams? What's your max for Leonard Williams? And also, should we get Darius Slay? And what would you be willing to pay him? Do you think he'd fit in this Joe Judge system with guys who, don't really get paid a lot of money, but provide value for the team? Anyway, hope you guys did enjoy this video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye, guys.